It's back. Woo! Odyssey's Oceanfront Concerts on the sands of Virginia Beach, April 26th through 28th, with performances by Juicy J, and Elite Chopper, along with T Grizzly, Skilla Baby, 310 Baby, and Shorty Shorty. A full weekend of entertainment going down Oceanfront with DJs, food, and more. Odyssey's Oceanfront Concerts. Get your tickets now at OdysseyOceanfrontConcerts.com. That's AUDACY, OceanfrontConcerts.com.
Jesse Newell joins us from the Kansas City Star, covers the Chiefs for that entity. Jesse, welcome.
The theme of the Drew Carey Show back in the day, guys. That's what I remember it from.
That was.
Love the Drew Carey Show.
Proud Clevelander.
So let's get into the Chiefs, because one of the most interesting aspects of the offseason for me is to watch the rest of the league, and especially the teams in the AFC, try to make up ground on the Chiefs. Who's done the best job of that to date? Houston Texans would be the obvious answer. Are there others?
I think that would be the one that's made up the most ground, but you're also looking at, with the Texans, kind of the advantage the Chiefs had a few years back when Mahomes was on his rookie deal, which is, hey, if your quarterback's not making any money and he's really good, then you can go out there and you can spend on some luxury items. And, we saw the Texans go out and get Stephon Diggs. They already have a couple really good receivers. They obviously have the quarterback in place who's not making the money. So I think they've made up a lot of ground, but, I wouldn't forget about some of these other teams out there that are already pretty good. And especially if you got a guy like Joe Burrow coming back, we assume healthy, you can't count out Cincinnati. And then even the Bills losing what they lost, I'm still a big Josh Allen fan, and we've seen really good quarterbacks like Mahomes overcome deficiencies in other areas. And that playoff game last year, Josh Allen wasn't the one missing the field goals. He played pretty well in that game against Mahomes, and their offense played pretty well against the Chiefs defense that shut down most other opponents. So I would say those two teams are still going to be up there and still compete against the Chiefs. We know there's some rivalry there from the past few years. But, yeah, I would say in terms of making up ground and trying to go for it and be the heir apparent there and trying to really put a charge into Kansas City, I would say the Texans have made the most ground in the offseason. And, again, it really helps to have a quarterback that's on the cheap on a rookie contract.
I would assume you can kind of call the Chiefs the favorite. To me, this just all kind of reinforces what Patrick Mahomes is, because you look at some of these rosters, like the Texans, like you said, they just got Diggs, they added Mixon, they got Stroud, they have Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and it's just an unbelievable array of offensive talent. And Cincinnati has kind of had that in the past, Buffalo sort of, but it's the Chiefs that keep winning because the X factor is Patrick Mahomes. Is that a fair assessment, that it just kind of reinforces what Mahomes means, and that may be impossible to match up with him?
Yeah, and I mean, you also we have to throw in there just a little bit of, last year was not supposed to be the Chiefs' year, and we talked through most of the season when I came on with you guys, like, what's wrong with the Chiefs this year? Why aren't they competing? Are they wasting a year of Patrick Mahomes' prime? And, things fell right for them late. And in the biggest games of the year, they either played well or, they had a few bounces go their way. I mean, how does the Super Bowl turn out if a punt doesn't go randomly off of a guy's ankle in the back off a bad punt from Tommy Townsend? Does that game turn out differently? I don't know. I mean, what if I didn't mention Baltimore, who we should put in the conversation with the Chiefs too, because they were the ones who hosted the AFC Championship game last year. Drew Tranquill makes an ankle tackle on a pass that Lamar Jackson throws to himself, that's deflected. And if he doesn't, I think that thing goes for a touchdown. So, I think the Chiefs, big picture, what you want to do is what they've done, which is you want to keep this window open as long as possible with the quarterback that you have and not make too many risky decisions in the short term that will cost you for the long term. And the hope is that if Patrick Mahomes makes the playoffs every year the next 10 years, you're going to win 4 or 5 Super Bowls because he's that good. And you're going to give yourself a chance. And then there's going to be years like last year where you're going into it, you're not the favorite. You're not supposed to win, but a few things go your way. You play really well at the right time, and all of a sudden you're hosting up a second straight Lombardi trophy. So, you can't count these other teams out. And, again, a lot of those rosters, the Ravens took a step back of their roster this year. But, again, it's the same thing. They were a favorite at home in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, but didn't get it done in that one game. So there will be a lot of competition for this AFC spot once again. But if you're the Chiefs, you got to love your position just because you have Mahomes, you have Andy Reid, and those guys have proven in crunch time the last couple of years that they can get things done.
Talking with Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star, kind to come on with us periodically to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. We had your colleague, Vahe Gregorian, on Friday, and it was a busy news day, obviously, especially as it pertains to where the Chiefs are going to play in the future, and then the incident involving young wide receiver Rashee Rice. So I want to ask you about Rashee Rice. Pretty serious stuff. What do you think happens?
That's a really good question, and we're still waiting for him to be charged. Even his lawyer said last week he expects charges from Dallas County down in Texas, and until that happens, it's sort of a moving target. Not exactly sure what the Chiefs are dealing with because some of these crimes that could be alleged against him are felonies, and those could require jail time. And so probably too early to be, knowing exactly what's going to happen. Obviously, he hired a really well-known lawyer down in Texas who handles a lot of civil cases to try to make some of those people that were involved in the accident whole. But it's just too soon to know. And I'd love to tell you, I'd love to sit here and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is A, B, C, D, E, F. But we just sort of have to wait for this thing to play out. And until we know the charges against him or what charges they're going to be, it's probably too soon to know, what this is involving because it's kind of a wide range of outcomes. I think this is much as clear, guys. He's going to face a suspension from the NFL. Like, if he does not face criminal charges, the NFL Code of Conduct, personal conduct policy, it will be used in this regard and has been. It's basically just a policy that says if you embarrass the NFL with your actions, you are going to get suspended. And Rashee Rice has embarrassed the NFL. I mean, it's been on the bottom ticker on a lot of TV stations for basically a whole week now about what's going to happen, his press conferences, all those sorts of things. So I would just say we still have to wait for the facts. You'll have to wait to see the criminal process play out. But I'd be very surprised even if he avoids jail time, even if he avoids serious criminal penalties, if he does not get at least somewhere in the range of a 4 to 6 game suspension from the NFL, just because of the personal conduct policy and because the NFL has in the past looked at these examples and said, we do not like it when you embarrass the league and embarrass everybody with your actions. And obviously Rashee Rice is going to be put in that boat with this particular action.
Jesse Newell, our guest. I also want to ask you before Jeff has his question about the stadium as it pertains to the Royals and the Chiefs, the vote in Jackson County last week. I often think if I was writing a column about this, what angle would I take? And I see this perhaps as a societal shift. I think we're tired of carrying the burden of wealthy people. That's what it feels like to me. I don't, and in hindsight, this vote doesn't really shock me that much. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first off, my thoughts are if you got Vahe Gregorian on the radio, that's about as rare as in the clips. So congratulations, guys.
He does that for us quite a bit.
Yeah, if he goes on with you guys, then you guys are doing something right. You got the sweet talk to be able to get him on there because I don't hear him on any other radio station. So good on you.
Wow.
Yeah. So I would say what's interesting about this vote is I think the closer you are to Kansas City, and like my colleague Sam McDowell, columnist for Kansas City Star, has covered this for over a year. He's done a great job. And so I follow up on everything that's going on through him. And I think the people here feel a little bit differently than the national scale. Again, the further you get away from it, the more it is that narrative like they are turning down billionaire owners asking for handouts. I mean, that's the national narrative on this thing. And that's the narrative, if you're Nashville or whoever trying to get a stadium basically saying, or trying to get a team trying to say, hey, Kansas City turned it down. They voted it down. It's time to jump in. The more personal part of this is the plans were just ill-conceived from the beginning. The Royals, they had 2 finalists late last year to say they were going to pick one of 2 sites in Kansas City for the stadium. They ended up taking a 3rd site 5 months after a self-imposed deadline that wasn't one of the first 2 that they chose. And even up until the end, the last week of this thing, they changed the renderings. They changed the plans for the stadium to keep open a street, Oak Street, in downtown Kansas City, where it would completely change the look of the ballpark. I mean, basically, they're going to have to put something like the big green monster in Boston. They have to do that in right field because if you're going to keep that street open and keep some of those businesses open, you're dealing with a lot less square footage. So this whole thing was just very disorganized from the beginning, and the messaging was bad. And it went from messaging of like, look at this great downtown stadium, what it could do for everybody. And it turned into, at the end, hey, kind of this thinly veiled threat of like, hey, if you don't do this, we might leave Kansas City. And so they sort of made both ends of this spectrum come out to vote against them. They had people in businesses who were going to be misplaced come out and vote against them, and then they had people that don't like to be threatened come out against them. So the bottom line is, I think the closer you got to this and the closer you are to Kansas City, maybe there are other reasons that were voted against us rather than just billionaires versus the normal society. But again, on a national scale, I think that's the narrative that's going to be out there. And so Jackson County in Kansas City had the first chance to be able to keep the Royals and Chiefs long-term in their county, and that vote did not pass. And so that might get lost in the narrative as we go on, exactly why that was. But I think it's open now to bidding. You know, the Royals and Chiefs are now going to look at other options and potentially other places out there. So we'll see where this goes from here, and obviously it will be a story moving forward.
So, Jesse, based on what the Chiefs have known for most of the offseason, which is that Rashee Rice wasn't facing a potentially lengthy suspension, do you feel like they've made enough of an upgrade? Hollywood Brown at receiver, is that something now that is more pressing because of the Rashee Rice news? Is that where you expect them to go in the draft? Where does that all stand?
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood gives them nice security, obviously, depending on what happens with Rashee. But the Chiefs like to address needs a year in advance. You know what I mean? Like they like to draft guys where they can have them in a year and then basically replace the guy when they need to the next year. And so even you look at Brian Cook, a safety for the Chiefs. You know, they drafted him a year before they needed a safety, and then he stepped in at safety. You know, you can go up and down the roster, kind of what they've done for that. Even if you want to go to Trent McDuffie, you know, they draft him. Now L'Jarius Sneed has to go through free agency, or doesn't have to, but he did, and they replace him kind of from the back end. The Chiefs, if you're just looking to next year, Hollywood Brown going to be on a one-year contract. They need another receiver, and they also need another playmaker because Travis Kelce's not getting any younger. He is going to have his production replaced here in the very near future as well. So I think the Chiefs need a receiver in their top two picks, regardless of the Rashee Rice situation, regardless of the Hollywood Brown situation, to try to work a year in advance. And heck, to be honest with you, the way receivers produce now, once you get them early in the draft, a lot of these guys are stepping right in and they're playing right away and they're producing right away. And the aging curve for receivers kind of is dropping off. You know, it's harder to get older receivers to produce the same way that younger receivers do. And we know Patrick Mahomes now is taking up a lot of salary cap. Chris Jones is taking up a lot of the salary cap, and receivers on the free agent market are very, very expensive. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Chiefs in the future, if it just sort of becomes a thing that they have got to take a receiver in the first couple rounds or first 3 rounds of every draft moving forward just to try to replenish that talent while also trying to manage a salary cap situation that's different because they have so many high-priced guys on the roster. So the long-winded answer to your question that I fully expect them to take a receiver. They also need a left tackle. I don't know if they're going to go in the free agent market or try to get one on the first day of the draft, but I would be very surprised, maybe not shocked, but surprised if their first 2 picks upcoming draft are not wide receiver tackle or tackle wide receiver. It seems like those 2 are the areas of need, and hopefully for them, those 2 positions remain deep as most analysts think they're going to be, and they can get a pretty good player at their spot in the draft at 32, or they can make a little trade up and get the guy they really want in that position. But either way, I think one of those 2 positions is what you'll be looking at for draft night for the Chiefs. And if that's the case, they're going to fill in a nice need and be able to take care of a position that is needed to address here in the offseason.
And before we let you go, I know you have some affinity for the Royals. Are they real? Is this a for real thing?
Man, guys, I think it is. And again, for real, you can define what you think for real is. After tying the franchise record for losses last year, you know, getting back in the vicinity of 500, that's really good. And I watched the Easter game. I signed up. I'm still one of the old school guys like you guys. I signed up for my Bally Sports account to watch the Royals. I do it about every night. And that game on Easter that they had where Bobby Witt was hitting homers, Michael Garcia looks like he's developed, MJ Melendez is hitting for power and taking walks. I mean, I think this is encouraging. The way you think that they can win with young players that's developing along with better starting pitching, is exactly what's happening right now. So, again, I'm not predicting playoffs for them, but somewhere in the 75 to 80 win range, that'd be a huge improvement and the best that we've seen from them in about a decade.
All right. Well, tell my new best friend Vahe hello for me, and we love getting him on our show. And it pleases me to no end to hear that this is one of the few shows he does. Thank you, Jesse.
I appreciate it, guys.
Everybody knows it. Toyota trucks are the stuff of legends. Rugged, durable, everlasting. Toyota makes trucks that just don't quit. And now Toyota is driving that legacy toward the future with two of their most powerful trucks ever, the new Tundra and the all-new Tacoma. In a half-ton Tundra, you can rule the roads. From the comfort of a spacious cabin with connected tech and plenty of hauling power, the Tundra is ready to work hard and play even harder. Or check out the all-new 24 Tacoma, redesigned and electrified to maximize your adventure. With a bevy of available off-road driving and power transfer modes, you will effortlessly crush the conditions. And with the Tacoma's reimagined interior, you'll do it in style. And right now, your local Toyota dealer has more vehicles in stock and is making delivery on new vehicles almost every day. So don't wait. Buy a Tundra or Tacoma today. Visit buyatoyota.com for deals and more. Toyota, let's go places.
It's back. Odyssey's Oceanfront Concerts on the sands of Virginia Beach, April 26th through 28th, with performances by Juicy J and Elite Chopper, along with T Grizzly, Skilla Baby, 310 Baby, and Shorty Shorty. A full weekend of entertainment going down Oceanfront with DJs, food, and more. Odyssey's Oceanfront Concerts. Get your tickets now at OdysseyOceanfrontConcerts.com. That's AUDACY, OceanfrontConcerts.com.